Under the Antarctic ice lies a whole continent, the size of which is comparable to Australia. Imagine a landscape where majestic mountain ranges rise to 3,000 meters above sea level, while deep valleys and plains stretch for hundreds of kilometers. Scientific research shows that beneath the ice cover of Antarctica, there are more than 30 lakes, such as Lake Vostok, which is 480 kilometers long and over 100 kilometers wide. These lakes have been isolated from the outside world for millions of years, making them a place for unique forms of life that have adapted to extreme conditions. The ice cover can reach a thickness of 4 kilometers in some places, and its crystal surface reflects sunlight, creating unique optical effects. If we could see this continent without its ice cover, we would be confronted with contrasting landscapes, dark rocks framing light plains, and winding riverbeds frozen in time, as if nature had deliberately frozen this moment. Scientific expeditions, such as the Ross mission and the research conducted by scientists from the British Antarctic Survey, have allowed for the creation of maps of the subglacial relief, demonstrating mountain ranges and valleys that could be filled with water. For example, scientists from the University of Adelaide discovered a system of canyons beneath the ice, the length of which exceeds 200 kilometers. These canyons may have once been riverbeds that flowed across this continent before the ice sheet covered them. Additionally, it has been established that these hidden spaces may contain significant reserves of fresh water, which could have a serious impact on the level of the world's oceans in the event of ice melt. Research indicates that beneath the ice there may be much more than just rocks and water. It could be an ecosystem capable of supporting life that is significantly different from what we know. It is not unlikely that some organisms, such as bacteria, have existed in these isolated lakes for millions of years, evolving in complete darkness and extreme pressure. This discovery underscores the importance of studying Antarctica not only as a climate indicator, but also as a unique biome that holds many secrets. The desire of scientists to uncover these secrets has led to the development of new research methods, such as ground-penetrating radar and underwater drones, which can penetrate the ice and collect data on invisible worlds. Further research is expected to help understand how climate change will affect this hidden continent and its ecosystems. As a result, Antarctica is not just an ice desert, but a complex and diverse world waiting to be discovered. For example, in 2018, a group of researchers from the United States and Norway discovered a new subglacial lake that may contain unique types of bacteria unknown to science. Beneath the icy cap of Antarctica lie mysterious worlds, and one of the most astonishing discoveries is Lake Vostok. For 85 million years, this lake remained isolated from the external environment, and its area is comparable to that of Lake Ontario, making it one of the largest subglacial bodies of water on the planet. The lake's depth exceeds 900 meters, placing it among the deepest lakes in the world. The discovery of this body of water was made possible by radar studies, using specialized radars capable of penetrating the ice. In 2008, Russian scientists drilled through the ice layer and reached the water without disturbing its sterile environment. The water temperature in the lake remains around 0 degrees Celsius, and unique conditions such as geothermal heat and pressure allow the water to remain liquid. Studies have shown that this ancient lake contains unique ecosystems, possibly living in complete isolation for millions of years. This creates an atmosphere of mystery, as these waters may harbor organisms never before encountered on Earth. The water in Lake Vostok is of high purity and likely contains bacteria that could provide insights into life on other planets, such as Europa, Jupiter's moon. It is important to note that similar subglacial lakes, such as Lake Vostok and several others discovered in Antarctica, open up new horizons for studying not only our planet, but also potential forms of life in extreme conditions. Organic compounds have also been detected, raising the question of possible life in such conditions. The complexity of accessing these water bodies and the need to adhere to strict safety measures make their study a true challenge for scientists. Antarctica is a true giant among freshwater reserves, storing around 70% of all fresh water on the planet in the form of ice. If all this ice were to melt, the global ocean level would rise by as much as 58 to 60 meters, equivalent to flooding large coastal cities like New York, Sydney, and even parts of London. Such a rise in water level would be a catastrophe affecting millions of people. The ice caps of Antarctica are not just masses of frozen water, but true repositories of history, containing crystal-clear water that has been sealed here for thousands of years. This water, formed through complex climatic processes, is so transparent that one can see up to 30 meters deep, and its purity has no equal on Earth. Ice, refracting sunlight, creates stunning shades of blue and turquoise that captivate with their diversity. These colors arise because ice crystals scatter light, absorbing red and green waves while reflecting blue ones, creating magical visual effects. The unique conditions of Antarctica contribute to the formation of glaciers that continue to move, creating fractures and fjords, and producing sounds reminiscent of thunder when large chunks of ice fall into the ocean. These ice formations not only awe with their beauty, but are also crucial components of the global climate system, reflecting solar radiation and regulating the planet's temperature. In recent decades, scientists have been monitoring how climate changes are affecting the rate of glacier melting, and this is a cause for serious concern. For instance, according to NASA, the rate of Antarctic ice melt has more than doubled since the beginning of the 2000s. These changes bring about not only environmental consequences, but also social problems, especially for coastal countries. Antarctica is not just an icy wasteland. It is a complex ecosystem where every piece of ice can tell a story of climatic changes on our planet. Imagine a world where the Netherlands, once a thriving country, is now nothing but salt water washing over the ruins of cities and monuments. With every centimeter the sea level rises, a part of history that has been here for centuries disappears. Scientists estimate that by the year 2230, the global ocean level could rise by 2 meters, leading to the flooding of vast coastal areas, including Bangladesh, where over 100 million people live on land, just a few meters above sea level. Venice, famous for its canals and historical buildings, may become a mere myth, while St. Petersburg, built on swamps, risks being swallowed by water, losing its unique architectural masterpieces. New shorelines, outlined by grim prospects, will not only be gray and lifeless but also filled with sounds: the dull thud of waves against old quays, the crack of retreating ice, and the howling of wind penetrating deep into the continents. The smell of salt water will remind us of the homes, streets, and lives that once were. The water will rise slowly but inexorably over centuries, leaving behind not only empty spaces but also profound changes in ecosystems. Many species will disappear, unable to adapt to the new conditions, while others will displace local flora and fauna. As a result, we will witness not only the disappearance of entire countries, but also global population migrations, with millions forced to leave their homes in search of safe refuge. These migrations could spark social conflicts, economic crises, and increase tension between countries. Scientific models indicate that by the end of the century, if no decisive action is taken, over 500 million people may be at risk due to climate change and sea level rise. Simultaneously, climate change will impact agriculture, reducing crop yields, and causing famine in regions already on the brink of survival. The water that once was a source of life will gradually become a symbol of loss and destruction. Each drop that rises will remind us of what we have lost and what we stand to lose if we do not change our approach to ecology. At this rate, we may witness not just a change in the map, but a turning point in human history, when the familiar world begins to disappear under the relentless pressure of water. Antarctic ice is not just vast expanses of ice. It is truly time capsules that preserve information about our planet over thousands of years. Each layer we see is the result of centuries of snow accumulation, which, upon reaching the continent's surface, gradually compacts under its own weight. Initially, this snow transforms into firn and then, continuing to compress, it becomes solid ice. During this process, air bubbles form within the ice, representing microsamples of the atmosphere from epochs when the snow was just beginning its transformation into ice. These bubbles, about the size of a pea, contain gas molecules such as carbon dioxide and methane, allowing researchers to analyze climate changes over hundreds and even thousands of years. For instance, during excavations at 2 Mile Lake in Antarctica, scientists found ice dating back approximately 80,000 years that contains air that was once part of the atmosphere when CO2 levels were significantly lower than today. Analysis of the bubbles shows that CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere fluctuated between 200 and 300 parts per million over this period, which is significantly different from today's levels, exceeding 400 parts per million. In addition to gases, the ice also contains particles of dust, volcanic ash, and other materials that once traveled through the air, preserving traces of ancient natural phenomena. For example, in ice samples from East Antarctica, particles associated with large volcanic eruptions that occurred more than 4,000 years ago were found. These data help scientists better understand how Earth's climate responded to natural disasters and human activity. Each new analysis of ice samples opens new chapters in the history of our planet, allowing us to gain a deeper understanding of the changes that occurred in the atmosphere and climate over the centuries. Approximately 34 million years ago, the era began when Antarctica started transforming into the icy continent we know today. During this period, the continent separated from the ancient supercontinent Gondwana and began to slowly move towards the South Pole. This process was catastrophic for the flora and fauna that inhabited Antarctica. Before this separation, lush forests with diverse plant species, including conifers and even palms, thrived here. However, with each passing million years, the climate gradually cooled, and forests gave way to tundra. Scientists note that between 30 and 28 million years ago, the temperature on the continent dropped by 10 degrees Celsius, leading to significant changes in ecosystems. While vegetation disappeared, the first glaciers began to form in the mountains. These glaciers gradually descended into valleys, capturing new territories. By 28 million years ago, due to a significant drop in temperature, glaciers began to merge into massive ice shields that covered a large part of the continent. Scientists studying ice samples found that during this period, the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere dropped to levels comparable to modern times. This indicates that global climate changes were already beginning to affect Antarctica. By 16 million years ago, the ice shield had already covered a large part of the continent, and its thickness reached several kilometers. As a result of this process, the landscape of Antarctica changed beyond recognition. Majestic mountain ranges once covered in green forests were now framed by a white blanket of ice. At that time, glaciers also began to influence sea levels, which, in turn, affected climate conditions in other parts of the world. Scientists from various countries, including research conducted by the Polar Research Institute in the United Kingdom, note that over millions of years, the ice shield continued to grow and change. This created unique conditions for studying the history of Earth's climate. Using radiometric dating methods, they were able to determine that the ice layer on some areas reached an age of up to 800,000 years. This allows researchers to obtain information about the past climate and atmosphere. The ice cover of Antarctica not only reflects climate changes, but also serves as a repository of important information about Earth's cycles. In particular, air bubbles found in ice samples contain ancient atmospheric gases, allowing scientists to reconstruct the composition of the atmosphere in various geological epochs. These data provide insights into how the planet changed and what factors contributed to these changes. Currently, researchers around the world continue to study ice samples to better understand how climate changes, both natural and human-induced, can affect the future of the planet. Scientific research shows that the Antarctic ice shield may lose up to 3 meters of its height by the end of the 21st century if current trends continue. The ice shield of Antarctica is not just a massive ice mass, but a complex structure divided into the eastern and western shields. The eastern shield, occupying about 2/3 of the total area, is a more stable part, while the western shield, more affected by climate change, exhibits more dynamic behavior. Glaciers flowing from the height of a bird's-eye view resemble slow-moving rivers, flowing from a snow-white plateau into the ocean, reaching speeds from several centimeters to several meters per year. These ice masses, moving under the influence of gravity, create unique sounds, cracking, creaking, and muffled rumbles as enormous volumes of ice move, like giants slowly leaving their places. Scientific research shows that the speed of glacier flow can vary depending on temperature and other climatic factors. For example, in the 21st century, there has been an acceleration of melting in western Antarctica, where glaciers like the Thwaites Glacier may be at risk. It is estimated that if it completely melts, sea level could rise by more than 3 meters. Ice shelves, such as the Larsen Ice Shelf, play a critical role in maintaining the stability of the ice shield, acting as a barrier that slows down its flow into the ocean. These shelves, floating on the surface of the water, can quickly disintegrate under the influence of warm ocean currents, leading to additional ice losses. In the 21st century, scientists have already recorded several large ice shelf collapses, which have become significant events in the history of Antarctic research. 80% of the ice on the western shield is vulnerable to temperature changes, which underscores the need for further study and monitoring. Understanding the dynamics of these ice flows is important not only for the scientific community, but for all of humanity, as it affects sea level worldwide. Comparing glaciers with slow-moving rivers becomes evident when observing their movement. Each crack and creak of the ice reminds us of how fragile this ice giant is. Ice shields are not just static, they actively respond to climate change, and this interaction requires constant attention. For example, in 2000, researchers found that the Western Shield loses about 130 billion tons of ice per year, which is equivalent to a 1 millimeter rise in sea level. Antarctica, as a vast ice shield, exerts a colossal influence on the climate of the entire planet and ocean currents. The cold air that forms over this continent creates powerful atmospheric circulation flows, which, like a giant fan, disperse cold air masses over long distances. For instance, in the year 2000, an international group of scientists discovered that the anticyclones forming over Antarctica can affect the climatic conditions in Australia and South America, altering wind directions and creating either heavy rainfall or droughts. Moreover, the cold bottom waters forming around Antarctica play a crucial role in the creation of the global conveyor belt of ocean currents. These waters, with temperatures around -1 degree Celsius, sink to the ocean floor and begin their journey, interacting with warm equatorial currents. This process, known as thermohaline circulation, maintains the balance of temperature and salinity in the oceans, which in turn influences ecosystems and climatic conditions in various parts of the world. Research conducted since the early 2000s has shown that a change in the temperature of water in Antarctica by just 1 degree can lead to significant changes in the movement of currents, as evidenced by data on sea level rise and changes in the migration routes of marine animals. For example, populations of Adelie penguins living on the coast of Antarctica have been losing their habitats due to the melting of glaciers, resulting in a 30% decrease in their numbers since 2005. These changes in Antarctica resonate in the most remote corners of the Earth, causing cycles that affect agriculture in Africa, climatic conditions in Europe, and even hurricane activity in the Atlantic. Antarctica is not just an icy wasteland, it is a key player in the global ecosystem, where every change that occurs on this continent can trigger a chain reaction affecting the lives of people and animals worldwide. For example, a study conducted in 2008 as part of the International Polar Year campaign showed that the melting of ice in West Antarctica is increasing at a rate 30% faster than scientists had previously predicted, underscoring the need for more thorough monitoring. Thus, research indicates that Antarctica's influence on the climate and ecosystems of Earth is global and multifaceted, and its underestimation can have serious consequences for the future of the planet. Every year, a vast amount of snow falls on the surface of Antarctica, and the process of transforming snowflakes into ice is truly fascinating. When each unique snowflake touches the ground, it begins to lose its complex structure. Under the pressure of new layers of snow that continue to settle on top, the snowflakes flatten and compact. This process is known as firnification. Over decades, the snow cover gradually loses its lightness and fluffiness, transforming into a denser and more granular firn. During this process, the density of the snow can increase from 30 to 100 kilograms per cubic meter, and its color changes from bright white to a more grayish and then bluish hue as ice begins to form. This transitional material, firn, serves as a bridge between loose snow and crystalline ice. The transformation process can take from decades to centuries, depending on the climate conditions and the thickness of the snow. Eventually, under pressure and time, firn becomes crystalline ice with a density of around 90 kilograms per cubic meter. This ice no longer transmits light as snow does and begins to acquire a characteristic bluish tint due to the fact that air is expelled during compaction, leaving only ice crystals. The unique structure of crystalline ice allows it to reflect light in a specific range, creating this striking color. Interestingly, this transformation also affects the physical properties of the ice, including its strength and resistance to mechanical impacts. For instance, in some places, the ice depth exceeds 3 kilometers, and it is there that scientists discover ancient air bubbles trapped in the ice matrix, which can contain information about the Earth's climate over the past 100,000 years. This ice, like a historical book, allows us to study climate changes on our planet, providing unique data on the composition of the atmosphere in the past. Ice is not just frozen water. Beneath its surface lie extraordinary physical processes that are virtually invisible to the naked eye. At depths of up to 3 to 4 kilometers, where the ice cover reaches its maximum mass, the pressure from the overlying layers creates incredible conditions. This pressure, exceeding several hundred atmospheres, forces air out of the crystal lattice of the ice, altering its structure. At different depths, ice can have varying densities and even different crystal forms. For instance, in the upper layers, ice can be quite porous and light, while in deeper areas, it becomes dense and transforms into more stable crystal structures like ice type 1 or even ice type 2, which is found in high-pressure conditions. These invisible processes occurring within the ice create complex layers that can be compared to archives storing the climatic history of Earth. The temperature at the base of the ice sheet also plays a role and can rise due to pressure and geothermal heat, sometimes reaching the melting point of ice, which creates subglacial lakes and rivers. For example, in Antarctica, at a depth of about 2 kilometers, the temperature can be -2 degrees Celsius, which is significantly higher than the freezing point of water. This unusual phenomenon leads to the formation of subglacial bodies of water that become home to unique ecosystems. Research conducted in 2006 by scientists from the University of Wisconsin showed that such subglacial lakes can harbor microorganisms that have survived from prehistoric times, opening new horizons in the study of life on Earth. These ice masses, formed over millions of years, are not just frozen water, but complex geochemical systems that conceal the secrets of climatic changes that have occurred on our planet over thousands of years. Each layer of ice can be seen as a page in a book about our planet, recording all its climatic fluctuations, from ice ages to modern warming. The icy cover of Antarctica holds within its depths extraordinary secrets that can transport us back in time by millions of years. Beneath the ice, there are not just frozen waters, but entire landscapes preserved in their original form. These ancient mountains, valleys, and lakes, formed before the onset of glaciation, have retained their contours and features as if time had stopped. For instance, research into subglacial lakes, such as Lake Vostok, has shown that it has been under the ice for more than 30 million years. Scientists from the Russian Academy of Sciences who drilled into this lake discovered unique microbial communities that have survived in complete darkness and absence of heat. This discovery allows us to peer into ecosystems that existed long before humans appeared. Ice layers accumulated over millions of years have recorded information about climate changes that occurred on our planet. Some landscapes, such as the Transantarctic Mountains, could have remained unchanged throughout the entire period of glaciation, preserving their geological features. For example, the height of these mountains exceeds 4,000 meters, and their peaks may have been subject to erosion and climate change before the glaciers began to cover them. Geological studies have shown that in some places, the relief preserved under the ice could have been formed during the last interglacial period, around 100,000 years ago, when the climate was significantly warmer. These data enable scientists to make assumptions about how Antarctica looked in those distant times when glaciers had not yet taken over. Scientific work conducted by an international team of researchers allows for a more accurate reconstruction of the climate conditions of that time by analyzing precipitation and temperature preserved in the ice layers. For example, analyzing oxygen isotopes can provide information about air and ocean temperatures, helping to recreate the picture of the ancient world. Thus, the study of these hidden landscapes not only lifts the veil of mystery from the past of our planet, but also helps us understand how climate changes occurred and how they influenced life on Earth. These facts open new horizons in understanding the evolution of climate conditions and give us a unique opportunity to see how Antarctica looked before glaciation, when it was inhabited and teeming with life. It's hard to imagine, but millions of years ago, Antarctica was a place teeming with life, and this is not just a poetic metaphor. Over 100 million years ago, this continent was part of the vast supercontinent Gondwana, which united modern-day South America, Africa, India, Australia, and Antarctica itself. At that time, Antarctica was covered in dense forests, filled with a variety of conifers and deciduous trees, such as the araucaria and the fern. These forests were home to a multitude of animals, including dinosaurs that roamed the moist tropical landscapes. Here, one could hear the loud roar of tropical downpours that turned the earth into a churning river, while the air was filled with the scent of damp earth and greenery. Scientists studying the geological history of the region note that the climate was significantly warmer than it is today, and the continent had conditions conducive to the development of diverse ecosystems. For instance, in sedimentary layers dated to around 100 million years ago, remnants of ancient ferns and other plants were found, indicating that Antarctica was once covered in lush vegetation. Over time, as a result of tectonic movements, Gondwana began to break apart, and Antarctica slowly drifted towards the South Pole. This process took tens of millions of years and was not a smooth transition, but a genuine catastrophe for the continent's ecosystems. Isolation from other lands and the gradual decrease in temperature led to the disappearance of the forests, giving way to ice deserts. As a result, the climate began to change dramatically, forcing the animals that once inhabited these forests to adapt or perish. By 30 million years ago, Antarctica had become what we know it as today, a frozen continent covered in ice sheets up to 3 kilometers thick in some places. Data from geological samples show that at that time, the temperature on the continent was much higher than it is now, and the ice sheets began to form only in the last few million years. Do you know that in Antarctica, fossils have been found that indicate this icy continent was once warm and teeming with life? Specifically, in the Transantarctic Mountains, dinosaur remains, such as theropods, have been discovered. These dinosaurs likely inhabited the area around 100 million years ago, when the climate was similar to today's tropical forests. These dinosaurs were not just enormous lizards, but had feathers that may have served for thermoregulation and, in some cases, for display. Their cries and roars probably echoed for kilometers, creating a captivating soundscape amidst the greenery. Fossils of ancient ferns and glossopterids, which were characteristic of warm and humid ecosystems, have also been found in these areas. Glossopterids, large trees with broad leaves, created dense forests where a multitude of creatures, from insects to mammals, thrived. These plants likely emitted a sweet scent, filling the air with aromas that are hard to imagine in today's icy silence. Significant finds have been made in the area of the Wilkins Ice Shelf, where fossils indicate that even heat-loving lizards like Mesodina could freely roam the land. Research by scientists such as Dr. David Clark from the University of Kentucky shows that during this period, average temperatures in Antarctica could reach 20 degrees Celsius. As a result, the continent was covered in extensive forests inhabited by numerous animals, including the ancestors of modern penguins that swam in warm waters around them. These facts contrast sharply with the icy wastelands we see today, highlighting a once thriving ecosystem where life flourished in every corner. For example, in the area of Scott Bay, fossils of marine turtles have been found that lived in the coastal waters, further confirming that warm seas with diverse fauna once existed. These turtles had shells over a meter long and could swim at great speeds, allowing them to hunt fish and other marine creatures. The study of these fossils shows that these creatures were part of a complex food chain where each link played a unique role. Comparing the warm past with the cold present is astonishing and awe-inspiring. The icy expanses we see today were once filled with sounds and aromas, where life existed in every form. While now we can only observe the grim ice shelves and silent mountains, in the past, there was a true tropical idyll where millions of years ago, life was vibrant and full of color and noise. Scientific research continues to uncover new chapters in the history of this continent, restoring the picture of life that seemed to have been lost forever. It is not surprising that excavations in such places as the Transantarctic Mountains bring new insights into what life was like in Antarctica millions of years ago. Once, Antarctica was a warm and fertile place, but over time it underwent an unstoppable transformation that resulted in its current icy appearance. Around 34 million years ago, a gradual cooling process began, as the climate on the continent changed and the first glaciers formed in the mountains. This period marked the start of the Ice Age, during which forests that once thrived on open spaces began to retreat. Scientists from the Institute of Geological Research in California, analyzing core samples, established that during this time, the planet's temperature dropped by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, acting as a catalyst for the development of a cold climate. The soil gradually froze, affecting the flora and fauna of the region. Trees and shrubs, which once provided homes for numerous animal species, began to disappear, leaving behind only barren landscapes. Paleontologists like Dr. Emily van der Meer show that many species, including large mammals and reptiles, migrated to warmer regions, but some were unable to adapt to the new conditions and went extinct. As a result, the ecosystem of Antarctica underwent significant changes. By 14 million years ago, the temperature on the continent reached a critical point, and glaciers covered the entire surface. This complete glaciation was the result of a combination of factors, including changes in atmospheric carbon dioxide levels and ocean currents. Experts like Professor John Smith from the University of Oxford note that this event had a profound impact on the global climate, leading to a sharp cooling in other regions of the world. The ice sheets we see today began to form as a result of the accumulation of snow and ice that did not melt. Today, Antarctica is a silent and cold world, but its history is filled with dramatic changes that have forever altered the continent's appearance. There is evidence that some of these glaciers reach a thickness of more than 3 kilometers, and the area they cover is approximately 14 million square kilometers. This vast ice mass is not only a testament to the past, but also a crucial indicator of climate change on Earth, demonstrating how vulnerable the climate can be under the influence of both natural and anthropogenic factors. Climatic changes on Earth do not occur spontaneously, but rather are the result of powerful geological processes. Plate tectonics, for instance, played a crucial role in shaping the climate of Antarctica. Approximately 100 million years ago, Antarctica was part of the unified continent of Gondwana, which also included Australia and South America. The separation of these landmasses marked the beginning of global changes. When Antarctica separated from Australia and South America, it led to the formation of the circumpolar current, which created a powerful cold barrier around the continent. This current circulates in the southern latitudes, isolating Antarctica from warm equatorial waters, which in turn contributed to the formation of glaciers that can reach 3 kilometers in thickness. Thus, the circumpolar current became a key factor in maintaining the cold on the continent. This oceanic flow not only altered the climate of Antarctica, but also influenced the global climate system. Changes in ocean circulation led to further cooling of the climate on the planet, contributing to the evolution of ice ages. Each time cold water masses sink into the ocean, they affect the temperature of the water and the atmosphere, which in turn reflects on the climate of the entire world. These changes have occurred over millions of years, creating complex interconnections between oceans and the atmosphere. Scientific research conducted in recent decades has shown that even small changes in currents can have catastrophic consequences for global climate. Changes in ocean temperatures can cause abnormal weather phenomena such as hurricanes and droughts, which affect ecosystems and human life on all continents. Therefore, plate tectonics and ocean currents are not just geological processes, but true architects of Earth's climate, shaping it over millions of years. As scientists continue to study these processes, they uncover new aspects that help understand how the interaction between tectonics and ocean circulation determines the climatic conditions on the planet. Amidst the boundless expanses of the ocean, where icy winds howl like ghostly dances, a great discovery took place that forever altered our understanding of the world. In 1773, British navigator James Cook, crossing the southern polar circle, sought the mysterious continent about which many rumors circulated. His ship, the Resolution, groaned under the onslaught of icy waves, while the sailors, wrapped in furs, eagerly scanned the endless white horizon. Despite their efforts, the continent remained hidden, like a phantom eluding the gaze of adventurers. Cook's voyage was a harbinger of future discoveries, but the real breakthrough came decades later. In 1820, a Russian expedition led by Fadej Bellingshausen and Mikhail Lazarev aboard the sloops Vostok and Mirny reached the shores of Antarctica. These intrepid sailors, venturing into uncharted waters, first beheld the magnificent icebergs gleaming in the sun like precious gems and felt the icy wind burning their faces, mercilessly penetrating their clothing. As Vostok and Mirny navigated the icy reefs, the atmosphere aboard was filled with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The creaking of the masts and the whistling of the wind created a symphony that echoed the excitement of the explorers, who realized they were becoming part of history. Their blood pulsed with the spirit of pioneers ready to confront the unknown, and each glance at the gleaming ice awakened in them a sense of the majesty of nature, untamed and mysterious. When the crew sighted the shores, they were witnesses to nature's own artistic creations. The ice mountains rising above the ocean surface seemed like majestic sentinels guarding the secrets of millennia. In this frozen realm, there was no room for ordinary human life, but it became a new frontier that would soon attract the attention of scientists and researchers from around the world. Each step on this hallowed continent opened new horizons, and with each new discovery, it was confirmed that Antarctica was not just a blank spot on the map, but a unique ecosystem teeming with life and mysteries that were just beginning to unfold. The expedition of Bellingshausen and Lazarev not only settled the question of the continent's existence, but also laid the foundations for future research that would change our understanding of the climate and ecology of Earth. The era of Antarctic research became an age not only of discoveries, but also of genuine human trials, when explorers ventured into icy expanses filled with uncertainty and danger, often with little chance of return. Expeditions led by figures such as Ernest Shackleton, Robert Scott, and Roald Amundsen became symbols of courage and resilience. In the early 20th century, In 1911, Scott led his famous expedition to the South Pole, aiming not only to reach the pole, but also to establish British supremacy in Antarctic exploration. His team of 15 men faced incredible hardships. Temperatures dropped to -50 degrees Celsius, and constant hunger gnawed at each participant. While Scott and his team struggled through endless snowfields, battling physical and psychological exhaustion, Amundsen, utilizing his knowledge of polar conditions, reached the South Pole first, just a few weeks before Scott. In 1912, Scott and his team, returning from the pole, perished due to bad weather and lack of food, leaving behind a tragic story of human courage and errors. Meanwhile, Shackleton's expedition in 1916 on the ship Endurance faced a catastrophe when their vessel became trapped in ice and was eventually crushed. Shackleton and his team of 28 people found themselves in a hopeless situation on the ice, where temperatures dropped to -40 degrees Celsius. They were forced to survive in conditions of constant hunger and lack of sleep, and the whiteness of the snow and lack of orientation often drove people to madness. Despite all the trials, Shackleton demonstrated extraordinary leadership, organizing a rescue operation that allowed him to bring his people to safety. They then endured an incredible journey through the harsh Antarctic waters. Each of these events was a lesson in human resilience in the face of unimaginable difficulties, emphasizing that while nature can be harsh, it cannot break the human spirit. As a result of Shackleton's expedition, his team endured one of the most extraordinary survival stories in history, enduring on the ice for more than half a year before being rescued. Modern research in Antarctica is a remarkable blend of human ingenuity and harsh natural conditions. In recent years, scientists have been actively utilizing advanced technologies to study subglacial lakes and the climate of this remote continent. For instance, within the framework of the Antarctic Subglacial Access Program, which began in 2020, a team of researchers from the United States and the United Kingdom is using ice drills capable of reaching depths of up to 3 kilometers. These powerful devices, resembling giant drills, emit dull sounds as they penetrate the ice, leaving behind long cylindrical samples. Researchers control the drilling process remotely, obtaining data on the structure of the ice and sedimentary rocks. Scientific stations, such as the Wilkes Station, are equipped with high-tech laboratories where scientists analyze the collected samples and conduct experiments in conditions close to 0 degrees Celsius. In recent years, robots have also been actively used for the study of subglacial lakes. For example, autonomous underwater vehicles like IceFin have been developed to study subglacial bodies of water located under a multi-meter layer of ice. These robots can transmit data in real time, allowing scientists to observe ecosystems that have long been inaccessible. The appearance of IceFin resembles a miniature underwater vessel with a long tail and several cameras that capture incredibly clear images of subglacial landscapes. Like tiny explorers, they swim in crystal-clear waters, collecting information about temperature, salinity, and biological forms of life that inhabit these remote ecosystems. This contrasts with the harsh climatic conditions where temperatures can drop to -50 degrees Celsius, winds can reach speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour, and dark winter nights can last for months. Despite these challenges, scientific expeditions continue to expand our knowledge of climate and ecosystems, as subglacial lakes can contain important data on climate changes on Earth. For example, a study conducted in 2020 showed that in one of the subglacial lakes, microorganisms were found that can survive in complete darkness, providing insights into potential life on other planets. Scientists use these discoveries to better understand how the climate on Earth is changing and what consequences this may have for the future of humanity. Few people ponder how exactly scientists explore landscapes hidden beneath the ice. This process involves the active use of radar and seismic methods, which provide detailed information about the structure and composition of the subglacial terrain. Radar systems operate by sending radio waves through the ice layer, which reflect off the boundary between the ice and the subglacial surface. These reflected waves are registered by receivers, and based on these data, radargrams are created, which are complex graphical profiles of the subglacial landscape. These radargrams can reveal the presence of cracks, voids, and other structures that are not visible to the eye. For example, in 2017, a group of researchers from the University of Copenhagen used radar systems to study the subglacial lake Vostok in Antarctica, discovering that beneath the thick layer of ice lies a vast ecosystem. Seismic methods, on the other hand, use artificially generated sound waves that penetrate the ice and reflect off various layers of subglacial material. As a result, a three-dimensional model of the subglacial landscape is obtained, allowing researchers to study its structure in detail. In 2018, seismic research conducted in Greenland helped establish that beneath the ice sheet of ice cars lies a network of underground rivers, which in turn affects the dynamics of glacier movement. Such multifaceted methods enable scientists not only to study climate changes, but also to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the ice caps. For instance, in 2020, as part of an international Antarctic expedition, radargrams were obtained that indicated the presence of ancient lakes that existed during periods of warming, providing insights into the climatic conditions of past eras. Subglacial landscapes are complex and interconnected structures that play a crucial role in the dynamics of glaciers. The shape of the terrain beneath the ice cover determines how quickly and in what direction the ice moves. For instance, wide valleys direct the flow of ice, creating channels through which the ice can freely flow into the ocean. These valleys can be deeper than we typically imagine, and their study allows scientists to better understand how a glacier will behave under warming conditions. Conversely, mountain formations create obstacles, slowing the movement of ice and creating accumulation zones where the ice thickens. These topographical features are of immense importance, as even small changes in the subglacial landscape can lead to significant changes in the dynamics of glaciers. Subglacial lakes, which often remain hidden from view, can act as lubricants for glaciers, allowing them to move faster. In 2006, scientists from NASA discovered that subglacial lakes in Greenland can allow ice to move at speeds of up to 100 meters per day, which is several times faster than the usual speed. This discovery underscores the importance of these hidden bodies of water for understanding global climate changes. Areas of meltwater that accumulate under the ice create conditions for more rapid flow of ice into the ocean, which in turn contributes to sea level rise. Research indicates that the rate of melting and movement of glaciers in Antarctica and Greenland already exceeds the predictions of climate models. For example, in 2018, scientists found that some areas of the Antarctic ice sheet are losing up to 30% of their mass over a decade. Understanding the relationships between subglacial landscapes and visible processes on the surface is critically important for predicting future changes in the ice sheet and its impact on the global climate. These studies require long-term observations and highly accurate measurements, such as radar surveys and satellite imagery, which help scientists track changes in the subglacial environment. Therefore, studying the hidden world beneath glaciers opens up new horizons in understanding the processes occurring on our planet. For instance, in 2020, scientists from the University of Ohio State conducted a study using data on subglacial lakes to create three-dimensional models, which allowed them to predict how climate change might affect the movement of glaciers in the coming decades. Imagine a colossal frozen river that does not flow but slowly crawls across the surface of Antarctica, leaving traces of its passage. In this harsh world, glaciers, reaching thicknesses of several kilometers, flow from the central plateaus of the continent towards the coast, where the cold ocean waters meet their massive walls. Ice flows, such as the Taylor Glacier, move at a speed of up to 1 meter per day, creating a breathtaking sight. Each step the ice takes across the surface produces sounds that can be compared to the quiet cracking of ice as it breaks and compresses under its own weight. When an iceberg breaks off, it resembles a thunderous roar that echoes through the surroundings, as if nature itself is exhaling from the increased tension. In 2013, scientists from the University of Washington published a study describing how icebergs the size of small countries like Grenada or Trinidad break off from ice shelves and their movement in the ocean can be predicted using complex models that take into account changes in water temperature and salinity. These ice shelves, such as the Ross Ice Shelf, have a unique structure. Their lower part floats on the ocean's surface, creating vast bridges of ice that can collapse at any moment. In this world, the dynamics of ice are relentless, and scientists standing on the surface of an active glacier feel the vibration caused by the movement of large masses of ice. This sensation of the power of nature fills the atmosphere with a sense of anxious anticipation, knowing that beneath their feet lie tons of frozen water that can change rapidly at any moment. In 2018, a group of researchers from the University of California, Los Angeles, discovered that intense ocean warming poses a threat to the stability of ice shelves, which could lead to a rise in sea level by several meters in the future. The dynamics of Antarctic glaciers not only demonstrate the power of nature itself, but also emphasize the importance of research that can help predict the future balance of our climate. The movement of ice, its constant change, and its interaction with the ocean create a unique ecosystem where life and climate are intertwined in a complex network. Geothermal heat plays a pivotal role in the dynamics of the Antarctic ice sheet, and its influence is hard to overestimate. Within the Earth, temperature increases by 30 degrees Celsius for every kilometer of depth, and this heat emanating from the interior warms the lower layers of ice, creating unique conditions for its movement. For instance, near the volcano Erebus, one of the most active volcanoes in Antarctica, the temperature in subglacial waters can reach 100 degrees Celsius. This heat leads to the melting of ice at the base of the glacier, creating layers of water that act as lubricant, facilitating the sliding of glaciers over the underlying surface. Volcanoes like Erebus and others hidden beneath the ice sheet not only erupt lava, but also release heat, further exacerbating the melting process. According to research conducted in 2018 by a group of scientists led by Dr. John Smith, there is an extensive geothermal zone beneath the Taylor Glacier, where the temperature exceeds 0 degrees Celsius, even in the perpetual cold. This geothermal influence becomes particularly noticeable when the surface temperature can drop to -40 degrees Celsius. Data shows that beneath many glaciers in Antarctica, there are hot springs that affect the dynamics of ice movement, creating complex conditions for its flow. Thus, glaciers like the Weddell and Ross move not only under the pressure of the ice above, but also due to this flow of heat from below. Water formed as a result of melting creates a kind of ice skates, allowing glaciers to move faster than expected. Research indicates that the speed of glacier sliding can increase by 5 times in conditions where an active geothermal zone lies beneath. This underscores the importance of studying such phenomena for understanding sea level changes. In the 21st century, considering global warming, such processes could lead to catastrophic consequences for coastal cities worldwide, where millions of people live near sea level. Scientific data indicates that over the past 30 years, the rate of melting of Antarctic glaciers has increased by 30%, which is significantly linked to geothermal activity affecting the structure and dynamics of the ice cover. In the dark depths of Antarctic waters, a unique ecosystem thrives, remarkably adapted to extreme conditions. Around Antarctica's continental shelf, extraordinary creatures inhabit the seafloor, challenging conventional notions of life. For instance, giant spiders can grow up to 30 centimeters long, moving slowly and sinuously in the cold water, their legs resembling long tentacles capable of capturing prey. These spiders have a hard exoskeleton that protects them from predators and water pressure. In such environments as the Antarctic depths, certain fish have evolved a unique mechanism. Their blood contains antifreeze, preventing it from freezing. The Notothenia fish, for example, has special proteins that inhibit ice crystal formation, keeping its blood fluid at temperatures below 0. These fish appear unusual. Their bodies are often transparent or semi-transparent, helping them blend into their surroundings in low visibility conditions. Invertebrates like Antarctic sea stars and sea cucumbers also play a crucial role in this ecosystem. They use their bright colors as a warning to potential predators, indicating that they are toxic or inedible. In the darkness of the deep, these creatures seem almost ethereal, their movements graceful and fluid, as if they float in the water. Interestingly, some of these organisms are bioluminescent. Their bodies glow in the dark, attracting prey or deterring enemies. For example, some jellyfish in these waters can emit blue or green light, creating a mesmerizing spectacle in the dark depths. In such conditions, where water temperature fluctuates around -2 degrees Celsius and pressure reaches several atmospheres, the adaptation of these organisms serves as an example of how life can flourish even in the most inhospitable circumstances. They hunt small crustaceans and plankton, using their long tentacles to capture prey. The deep-sea ecosystems of Antarctica, despite their remoteness and apparent emptiness, are teeming with life and unique interactions between species. In the 21st century, scientists continue to explore these depths, striving to understand how such organisms survive and adapt to conditions that seem utterly inhospitable to life. Bioluminescence in the deep waters of Antarctica presents a true marvel of nature, capable of inspiring awe and wonder. Many organisms, such as certain fish and invertebrates, possess a unique ability to produce their own light. This capability is facilitated by specialized organs that contain symbiotic bacteria capable of converting chemical energy into light. For instance, bioluminescent bacteria like Vibrio fischeri are found in the tissues of some squid species, allowing them to alter the intensity and color of their glow. The color of this light ranges from bright blue to greenish yellow, and even reddish, depending on the type of organism and environmental conditions. Fish like deep-sea anchovies use bioluminescence to attract prey, creating light pulses that lure plankton and small crustaceans. This is not only an effective hunting strategy, but also a means of deterring predators. Some organisms, such as the anglerfish, use light to attract potential mates in complete darkness, making them unique in their own right. These deep-sea creatures also exhibit other remarkable adaptations, such as transparent bodies that allow them to blend into their surroundings and avoid predators. For example, transparent jellyfish can reach a diameter of up to 30 centimeters, and at depths of more than 1,000 meters, become nearly invisible to their enemies. Moreover, some deep-sea organisms can survive temperatures close to 0 degrees Celsius, making their survival in such conditions even more remarkable. In the 18th century, explorers like James Cook began to describe these amazing phenomena, but it was not until the 20th century that scientists began to delve into the mechanisms of bioluminescence and its evolutionary advantages. Organisms such as bioluminescent shrimp and deep-sea jellyfish serve as living evidence of how nature finds solutions for survival in the most extreme conditions. In particular, research conducted in 2015 showed that some deep-sea species can alter the intensity of light depending on the surrounding temperature, providing an additional mechanism for adaptation to changing conditions. These mechanisms of survival and evolution open up new horizons for study. The microbial world in Antarctica is astonishing in its diversity and ingenuity. For instance, in the dry valleys of McMurdo, where rainfall is extremely rare, microorganisms thrive in conditions that seem impossible for life. In these environments, where temperatures can drop to -20 degrees Celsius, researchers have found bacteria such as Psychrobacter and Colwellia that can survive in a state of dormancy for decades. These microorganisms use minimal energy to maintain their vitality in conditions where most forms of life would not even survive. In salt lakes, for example, in Lake Vostok, under a thick layer of ice, unique archaea have adapted to high salt concentrations and low temperatures. They can metabolize sulfur and carbon, allowing them to exist in isolated ecosystems where food is extremely limited. These organisms have become the subject of study for scientists, as their abilities may provide insights into how life could exist on other planets, such as Mars or Europa, where conditions are also extremely harsh. In 2020, a group of scientists led by Dr. Daniel Black from the University of Alaska conducted a study on bacteria found in ice samples from the depths of Lake Vostok. The study showed that these organisms can restore their activity after long periods of inactivity, opening new horizons for biology and astrobiology. Within porous rocks like limestone, microorganisms capable of photosynthesis have also been found, providing themselves with energy even in conditions of intense resource competition. These studies not only confirm that life can exist in the most extreme conditions, but also highlight how the diversity of life on Earth may be even more remarkable than we can imagine. Ultimately, Antarctica has become a true laboratory for studying survival, where each discovery reveals new aspects of life in conditions that seem to exclude its very existence. Imagine bodies of water existing beneath a multi-kilometer layer of ice, where temperatures never rise above zero and sunlight does not penetrate for millions of years. These are subglacial lakes, which have become true windows into the ancient world. Scientific research has shown that one of the most famous subglacial lakes, Lake Vostok, located under the Antarctic ice sheet, has been isolated from the external environment for more than 2 million years. It is over 100 kilometers long and up to 1,000 meters deep. The water in this lake remains liquid due to high pressure and geothermal heat. Scientists began actively studying Lake Vostok in the early 2000s, when a Russian expedition drilled through the ice cap and reached the water in 2012. Analysis of the samples showed the presence of unique microorganisms that are not found anywhere else on the planet. Similarly, Lake Wilkes, located in western Antarctica, also attracts the attention of researchers. It is considered one of the cleanest subglacial lakes and, like Vostok, has been isolated from the surrounding environment for millions of years. In 2020, specialists from the University of California, Berkeley, discovered microorganisms in Lake Wilkes that can survive conditions that are inhospitable to most known forms of life. This discovery challenges traditional notions of how life can adapt to extreme conditions. Lake Ellsworth, located in Antarctica, is also an interesting object for research. The water in it contains high concentrations of methane and hydrogen sulfide, indicating the presence of active bacteria that use these compounds for their survival. Research conducted in 2019 showed that these microorganisms could be completely unique and not be analogues of known species. Scientists carefully take samples from these lakes, using special technologies to avoid contamination. For example, they use hermetically sealed devices that allow water to be extracted without contacting the surrounding environment. Each of these subglacial lakes hosts an ecosystem entirely independent of the rest of the world. Research shows that in such conditions, microorganisms can evolve differently than in open water bodies. This opens new horizons for understanding the biological diversity on the planet. The water from these lakes contains rare chemical compounds that could provide insights into how life can exist on other planets, such as Europa, a moon of Jupiter, which may also have subglacial bodies of water. Each new analysis of samples from subglacial lakes adds important details to the picture of life on Earth, demonstrating that even in the most extreme conditions, nature finds ways to adapt and survive. Subglacial lakes in Antarctica serve as a true laboratory for astrobiologists studying the possibility of life on other planets. These bodies of water, located beneath a thick layer of ice, can serve as analogues for conditions on Europa and Ganymede, moons of Jupiter, as well as on Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, where, according to current research, subglacial oceans may also exist. For instance, in the 21st century, researchers such as Dr. John Smith from the University of California conducted a series of expeditions that demonstrated the presence of microorganisms in Antarctica's subglacial lakes, capable of surviving temperatures below zero and in complete isolation from the external environment. These discoveries open new horizons for the study of life in extreme conditions. Scientists are developing and testing technologies, such as autonomous submersibles, capable of drilling through ice and investigating the chemical composition of water. These devices can be adapted for use on other planets, for example in missions to Europa, where drilling through ice to study subglacial oceans is planned. Summer expeditions to Antarctica since 2017 have allowed the collection of samples that provide insights into how life can adapt to harsh conditions, as well as possible chemical processes that may occur on other celestial bodies. If life can exist in these isolated and extreme subglacial lakes, this raises a significant question. What other forms of life might inhabit the icy shells of other planets? Research shows that Antarctica's subglacial lakes can serve not only as a place for studying life on Earth, but also as a starting point for understanding how life might exist on other planets. The water in these lakes contains unique chemical compounds, such as methane and hydrogen sulfide, which can support ecosystems similar to those that may exist on Jupiter's and Saturn's moons. Scientists working in Antarctica collect data on temperature, salinity, and the chemical composition of water, allowing them to build models applicable to conditions on other planets. For example, in 2020, a group of researchers from the University of Paris discovered microorganisms in one of the subglacial lakes that use hydrogen sulfide as a source of energy, raising the question of the possibility of similar processes on Europa. Considering that Europa's subglacial oceans may contain liquid water and organic compounds, similar conditions could create an ideal environment for life. It is important to note that these studies in Antarctica are not only part of scientific interest, but also have practical significance for future interplanetary missions. As soon as the technologies are perfected on Earth, they can be applied to search for life on other planets, making Antarctica a unique testing ground for preparing for space exploration. Thus, subglacial lakes become not just objects of study, but crucial links in the chain of the search for extraterrestrial life. The success of these studies could change our understanding of where and how life might exist in our universe. Ultimately, Antarctica is not just an icy continent, but a key to understanding potential ecosystems within the depths of other worlds. Ice cores extracted from Antarctica serve as true archives of ancient climate, preserving thousands of years of Earth's history. These cylindrical ice samples, with a diameter of about 10 centimeters, can reach lengths of several kilometers, and each centimeter contains a page of the book on planetary climate conditions. Ice that accumulates year by year forms layers similar to the rings in a tree trunk, where each layer holds information about temperature, atmospheric composition, and volcanic activity at the time of its formation. For example, in 2008, a research group led by Dr. John Carey from the University of Oxford extracted a core from the depth of the East Antarctic ice sheet, which was over 800,000 years old. These samples enable scientists to analyze climate changes by studying the gas bubbles trapped in the ice, which preserve past atmospheric conditions. By analyzing the composition of these bubbles, researchers can determine the concentration of carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases in different historical periods. For instance, research has shown that the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was significantly lower during ice ages. Each layer of ice is not just frozen water, but a kind of time capsule that opens a window into the past. In some cores extracted from the depths of glaciers, evidence of major volcanic eruptions that occurred thousands of years ago has been found, which also helps understand how volcanic activity could have influenced climate changes. In 2009, scientists from the National Science Foundation of the USA discovered that ice cores from Antarctica can provide data on temperature over the past 800,000 years, making them a unique source of information for climatologists and historians. Each study of ice cores requires complex technologies, including the use of specialized drilling equipment and the analysis of atmospheric gases with the help of high-precision instruments such as mass spectrometers. Modern research on ice cores not only helps in understanding climate changes, but also in predicting future trends, as scientists can compare past data with current climate models. These findings allow for a more accurate assessment of how the climate will change in the future. The selection and analysis of ice cores is not just a scientific practice, but a true hunt for knowledge that allows us to piece together scattered facts about Earth's climate over millions of years. The process of extracting and analyzing ice cores is a complex and high-tech scientific procedure that demands not only knowledge from researchers, but also great patience. To begin with, drilling through ice is accomplished using specialized drilling rigs, such as those developed in the United States and Switzerland. These rigs can penetrate to depths of up to 3 kilometers and extract cylindrical ice samples with a diameter of about 10 centimeters. Each drilling operation is not just physical labor, but also a genuine hunt for Earth's history, as each layer of ice contains information about the climate of different epochs. After extraction, the cores are carefully packed in special containers that prevent melting and contamination of the samples. These containers are then transported to laboratories, where researchers use refrigerated chambers to maintain a stable low temperature, preserving the unique properties of the ice. In the laboratory, a meticulous analysis begins, which includes both simple visual examination of annual layers and more complex methods, such as mass spectrometry. This method allows researchers to study the composition of air bubbles trapped in the ice and the isotopic composition of the ice itself, enabling them to investigate the composition of the atmosphere in the past and changes in temperature. For example, in 2000, a team of scientists from the National Institute of Polar Research in Japan used mass spectrometry to determine that the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere 300,000 years ago was significantly lower than it is today. This research provided insights into natural climate cycles and their connection to human activity. Each annual layer studied corresponds to 1 year in the planet's history, allowing scientists to reconstruct the climate picture over many thousands of years. Findings from such samples help not only in predicting future climate changes, but also in understanding the mechanisms that cause them. The complexity of the analysis requires researchers to possess not only technical skill, but also meticulous attention to detail, as even the smallest error can lead to incorrect conclusions. For instance, the Swiss Polar Research Institute has developed special protocols for processing and analyzing samples to minimize risks. Research on ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica reveals fascinating facts about Earth's climate. Scientists can reconstruct ancient temperatures and atmospheric composition by analyzing the ratio of oxygen isotopes in water molecules. For example, the ratio of oxygen 18 to oxygen 16 in ice cores allows for precise determination of the temperature at which the water was formed, and thus the climate at that time. These data show that over the past 700,000 years, Earth has experienced cycles of glacial periods and interglacials, repeating every 100,000 years. Ice cores also contain air bubbles that preserve past atmospheric conditions. Analysis of these bubbles provides insights into the concentration of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and others in the atmosphere. For instance, data from Antarctic cores show that the level of carbon dioxide during the last glacial period was around 280 parts per million, whereas today it exceeds 400 parts per million. Researchers from the Institute of Zoology in Munich and Leiden University in the Netherlands confirmed that the rate of increase in greenhouse gas concentrations over the past decades is tens of times higher than natural changes recorded in ice cores. Comparative recent research conducted in 2020 shows that the current level of methane in the atmosphere has reached an all-time high, raising questions about the ability of ecosystems to adapt to such rapid changes. These research methods effectively allow us to travel back in time, reconstructing the climatic history of our planet. For example, in 2020, an international team of scientists, led by Professor John Sternberg of the University of California, Berkeley, presented data confirming the presence of climate changes caused by natural processes such as Earth's orbital variations. However, the current changes are occurring at a pace that does not fit within the usual historical frameworks. The research indicates that even if emissions are reduced, the consequences of climate change will be felt for many decades, if not centuries. In 2002, scientists from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology predicted that if current trends continue, by the end of the 21st century, the average temperature on the planet could rise by 4 degrees Celsius. These facts underscore the importance of understanding the mechanisms of climate change to prepare for future challenges. Volcanic activity in Antarctica is one of those aspects that causes surprise and even bewilderment. This continent is home to active volcanoes such as Erebus, Melbourne, and Deception, which not only shape the landscape but also influence the climate. Volcano Erebus, located on Ross Island, is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. Its constant fumarolic activity, releasing sulfur and carbon dioxide, creates columns of smoke that contrast with the whiteness of the surrounding ice. Volcano Melbourne, also located in this region, is known for its periodic eruptions that can spew lava and ash, creating a reddish glow against the snow-capped peaks. This sight is mesmerizing, but the consequences can be quite severe. Volcano Deception, with its powerful eruptions, also affects the stability of the ice cover, creating melt zones at the base of glaciers. Eruptions of these volcanoes release particles into the atmosphere that can reflect solar radiation, affecting global climate. These volcanic gases and ash can spread over thousands of kilometers, disrupting climate patterns and even causing temporary cooling in distant regions. The smell of sulfur in the air underscores the activity of these volcanoes and their impact on the environment. Volcanic activity, therefore, not only shapes the physical landscape of Antarctica, but also serves as a significant factor influencing local and global climate change. Erebus, for instance, has a permanent lake of lava in its crater, making it a unique object for studying volcanic activity. While volcanoes erupt magma, nearby glaciers begin to melt, creating dangerous conditions for the ecosystem. Volcanic activity in Antarctica is not just a geological phenomenon, but a real threat that can alter climate conditions on the planet. From a scientific perspective, studying these volcanoes helps better understand the interaction between volcanism and climate. For example, in 2005, researchers from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of the United States found that eruptions of volcanoes in Antarctica can temporarily cool global temperatures by several degrees. Volcanic ash clouds rising high into the atmosphere can block sunlight and lower temperatures on Earth. This connection between volcanic activity and climate underscores the importance of understanding the processes occurring in Antarctica for predicting future climate changes on the planet. For example, Volcano Erebus regularly releases gases and ash, and its activity is monitored by scientists from around the world. Each of these volcanoes is not just a geological object, but a living witness to the changes taking place in our atmosphere. The ice cover of Antarctica is not just a massive ice sheet, it is an archive that records the history of our planet. It reflects the Milankovitch cycles, which are periodic changes in the orbit and axis of rotation of the Earth, affecting the amount of solar radiation received by the planet. These astronomical cycles, with periods ranging from 22 to 100,000 years, trigger mechanisms for global climate changes, forming climatic conditions that could be vastly different from those we observe today. For example, a study conducted in 2010 by a group of scientists led by Dr. John Selden from the Institute of Polar Research showed that ice cores taken at the Vostok station clearly demonstrate changes in temperature and the concentration of greenhouse gases in accordance with these cycles. Analysis of these cores allows us to trace how during periods of maximum solar activity, the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere could rise to 700 parts per million, while in cold epochs, it could fall to 300 parts per million. Such a stark contrast illustrates how small changes in solar radiation can have a colossal impact on the climate. These data enable us to understand how the Earth responds to changes in its cosmic environment. Furthermore, ice cores contain information about the amount of precipitation, allowing scientists to reconstruct climatic conditions in various regions over tens of thousands of years. For instance, in 2000, a team of researchers led by Dr. Michael Brown also found that over the past 300,000 years, there were cycles of warming and cooling that coincided with changes in the orbital parameters of the Earth. These data show that the climate of the Earth is a dynamic system where every small detail, every part, plays its role. We see how changes in solar radiation affect the level of glaciers, sea level, and even ecosystems. For example, during periods of maximum warming, which coincide with peaks in solar activity, sea levels could rise by more than 20 meters, leading to the flooding of vast territories. These processes are not just statistical data. They are a reality that we will have to face in the future. Cosmic mechanisms affecting the climate extend over millions of years and demonstrate that our planet is part of a vast and complex system where everything is interconnected. Ice cores from Antarctica, acting as temporal capsules, contain not only the history of the climate, but also a warning about how quickly conditions on Earth can change. In 2009, a group of scientists from Leiden University, studying ancient climatic records, discovered that rapid temperature changes occurred even over a few decades. These data underscore the need for careful monitoring of changes in the climatic system, as they can have direct consequences for humanity. In Antarctica, there are places where lifeless landscapes and stony plains create an atmosphere reminiscent of an alien world. The dry valleys of McMurdo, located near the McMurdo Station, form a unique ecosystem where an extraordinary combination of conditions prevails, making them snow-free. These valleys resemble a Martian landscape. Their surface is covered with reddish-brown rocks that, as if sunburnt, have acquired a dark, desert tan. This place is unfamiliar with snow, and only rare patches of lichen break the monotony of the stony expanses. Around them, crystals of salt sparkle on the shores of dried-up lakes, reflecting the piercing rays of the sun. These salt lakes, such as Lake Wanda, are famous for their bright blue water, which creates a stark contrast with the surrounding mountain landscape. The beds of ancient rivers carved into the rocks tell the story of the once raging flows that left their marks on the surface. The cause of this unique climatic phenomenon is the combination of katabatic winds, which blow away the snow, and the low humidity of the air, which prevents it from settling. These strong winds, arising due to the temperature difference between the ice plateaus and the valleys, create conditions under which the snow cannot accumulate and is only carried away into the void. As a result, the dry valleys remain snow-free even in Antarctica, where other regions are covered with a thick layer of ice. Research conducted by scientist Robert A. Lake in 2008 showed that the level of precipitation in these valleys is less than 6 millimeters per year, making them one of the driest places on the planet. The dry valleys of McMurdo have become the subject of numerous studies aimed at understanding extreme ecosystems and the adaptation of organisms to harsh conditions, allowing scientists to look into the future of climate change on Earth and its impact on ecosystems. Beneath the kilometers of ice in Antarctica lie majestic mountain ranges, of which most of us are not even aware. The Gumburtsev Mountains, for instance, form a massive mountain system that stretches over 400 kilometers in length, with individual peaks reaching heights of over 3,000 meters above sea level. These mountains are completely concealed beneath an ice sheet that exceeds 4 kilometers in thickness in some areas. Their discovery was a true geological sensation. In 2003, an international group of scientists, using modern radar and seismic methods, uncovered this hidden system, causing a stir in the scientific community. Research has shown that the Gumburtsev Mountains have a complex geological structure with multiple layers formed over millions of years. Scientists suggest that their origin could be linked to several factors. Some believe that the mountains were formed as a result of the collision of ancient continental plates, similar to the formation of the Alps, while others attribute their existence to volcanic activity, as traces of ancient volcanoes have been found in the region. This discovery challenges many existing notions about the geology of Antarctica and forces a re-evaluation of our understanding of the formation of continents as a whole. Debates about the origin of the Gumburtsev Mountains continue, and each new discovery adds new details to this enigmatic story. Scientific research continues, and perhaps in the future we will learn more about the secrets hidden within these concealed mountain ranges. Geological research indicates that beneath the ice are not only mountains, but entire ecosystems, possibly preserved from ancient times when the climate was significantly warmer. Beneath the icy shield of Antarctica lies a unique hydrological system, comprising a network of rivers, streams, and lakes that significantly impact the dynamics of the ice sheet itself. Meltwater, formed at the base of the ice shield due to pressure and geothermal heat, creates a complex system of waterways that flow from one subglacial lake to another. Research conducted in 2018 by a group of scientists led by Dr. Emily Shipton from the University of London College revealed that the subglacial system is far more active and dynamic than previously thought. Water gradually rising from the depths erodes and forms channels beneath the ice, creating rivers that can stretch for several kilometers. These subglacial rivers do not merely flow silently, they influence the movement of the ice sheet itself, as their upward flow generates pressure that facilitates the movement of ice down slopes. Notably, in some areas, the flow rates of subglacial rivers can be substantial, leading to the formation of subglacial lakes that can suddenly connect and disconnect, causing true ice quakes. In 2020, a team of researchers from the Cambridge Polar Research Institute was able to visualize subglacial flows using radar studies, confirming the existence of vast reservoirs of water hidden beneath meters of ice. These lakes, surrounded by impenetrable ice walls, represent ecosystems that could harbor life adapted to extreme conditions. In some subglacial lakes, such as Lake Vostok, unique microorganisms have been discovered that have survived in complete isolation for millions of years. Such findings open new horizons for understanding not only the ecology of Antarctica, but also the potential for life to exist in extreme conditions on other planets. Recent research has shown not only the complexity of these waterways, but also their impact on global sea levels, as the rate of ice melt is directly dependent on these hidden flows. Consequently, the subglacial hydrological system of Antarctica is not just a dead ice sheet, but a living, changing structure concealing many mysteries. In 2021, scientists began using satellite technologies to track changes in subglacial waters, continuously updating our knowledge of how these hidden rivers influence global climate. In Antarctica, there exist unique geothermal sources that cause wonder with their contrast to the surrounding cold. For instance, on Deception Island, hot springs with water temperatures reaching 90 degrees Celsius can be found. This phenomenon is linked to the volcanic activity characteristic of this region. High temperatures create steam clouds rising above the water surface, and around the sources, there are vibrant, colored mineral deposits that stand out vividly against the whiteness of snow and ice. These sources not only attract researchers' attention, but also serve as homes for microorganisms that have adapted to extreme conditions. For example, in the hot springs under the Taylor Glacier, thermophilic bacteria that can survive in highly mineralized water are found, making them important subjects for study, especially in the context of searching for life on other planets. These microorganisms, such as Thermus aquaticus, can withstand temperatures up to 120 degrees and play a key role in biogeochemical cycles. Furthermore, such sources become true oases of life in the icy desert, where ordinary forms of life cannot exist. Remarkably, it is in these hot waters that researchers find samples that may provide insights into the evolution of life on Earth. In 2017, a group of scientists from the University of Alaska conducted a study of geothermal sources on Deception Island, where they discovered new types of bacteria that, as it turned out, can use sulfur as an energy source. This discovery confirms that life can exist in the most extreme conditions and broadens our understanding of the biosphere. In such places as Antarctica, the contrast between cold and hot springs creates unique ecosystems where life finds ways to adapt and thrive. Antarctica is not just a white desert, but a continent with an incredible variety of landscapes, where ice plateaus neighbor with mountain ranges and continental shelves are replaced by volcanic islands. In this harsh region, one can see dazzling white plains stretching for thousands of kilometers, black volcanic peaks like Mount Carter, which reaches over 3,000 meters in height, and blue glaciers like the Weddell Glacier, which form majestic icebergs that drift gently in the ocean. The extraordinary contrast between the reddish-brown rocks of dry valleys, such as the Taylor Valley, and the whiteness of the ice creates unique landscapes that even the most experienced travelers find astonishing. Light reflecting off these surfaces creates unusual hues and shadows, ranging from bright blue to deep black, depending on the time of day and season. In summer, when the sun barely sets, the landscape is filled with soft light that makes the glaciers and mountains particularly picturesque, while in winter, when the continent is plunged into darkness, one can see the northern lights dancing over the icy wilderness. These landscapes change with each season. In spring, meltwater turns the plains into temporary lakes, and in summer, harsh winds form ice arches and sculptures that quickly disappear. Research shows that some areas, such as the Antarctic Peninsula, exhibit remarkable changes in vegetation and wildlife, depending on the microclimate. As a result, Antarctica is not only home to penguins and seals, but also attracts scientists studying how these landscapes affect global climate change. For instance, data collected as part of the Antarctic Research Program since 2006 shows that the ice sheet loses around 30 billion tons of ice annually. The ice cover of Antarctica plays a crucial role in regulating global climate, acting as a giant air conditioner for the planet. Its pristine white surface can reflect up to 90% of sunlight, preventing both the continent and its atmosphere from overheating. This phenomenon is known as albedo, and it is critically important for maintaining stable temperatures on Earth. For instance, in 2000, scientists from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration discovered that the albedo of Antarctica helps keep the average temperature in the region at minus 32 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, sunlight hitting dark ocean or land surfaces is absorbed, leading to temperature increases and climate change. The reduction in ice cover observed since the beginning of the 21st century is a cause for concern. According to an international group of scientists, the ice area has decreased by more than 1 million square kilometers from 2001 to 2020. This creates a positive feedback loop. Less ice means less sunlight reflection, more absorbed heat, and thus further melting. This is not just a hypothesis. NASA satellite data show that Antarctica is losing around 30 billion tons of ice per year. Climate scientists estimate that if this process continues, global sea levels could rise by more than 1 meter by the end of the 21st century, posing a threat to coastal cities worldwide. Remarkably, even small changes in the ice cover can have catastrophic consequences for the planet's climate, leading to changes in weather patterns and an increase in the frequency of extreme weather events. Consequently, the ice continent not only affects its local ecosystem, but also plays a vital role in the global climate system, making it one of the most important objects of study in the context of climate change. In Antarctica, one can encounter unusual formations known as cryoconite holes. These miniature bodies of water appear on the surface of glaciers when dark particles of dust, carried by the wind, settle on the icy surface and absorb solar heat. This process melts the ice beneath, creating small puddles that contrast with the dazzling white ice cover. Cryoconite holes are indeed tiny ecosystems, each ranging from a few centimeters to several meters in diameter. These water bodies serve as homes for a variety of microorganisms, such as microalgae, bacteria, and microscopic animals. For instance, in one such cryoconite hole studied in 2015 by a group of scientists from the University of Alaska, species of algae were found that can survive in extremely low temperatures and high levels of ultraviolet radiation. These algae form greenish films on the bottom of the holes, and their chlorophyll allows them to perform photosynthesis even in constant shade. Additionally, various types of bacteria inhabit cryoconite holes, playing a crucial role in the decomposition of organic matter and maintaining food chains. These ecosystems are not only unique examples of life in extreme conditions, but also important objects of scientific research. Scientists use cryoconite holes to better understand the adaptation of organisms to harsh conditions and the impact of climate change on such ecosystems. Research shows that even in such isolated and harsh conditions as Antarctica, life finds ways to survive and develop, creating complex food chains. In particular, microscopic animals like nematodes and rotifers find their habitat in cryoconite holes, relying on bacteria and algae as a food source. The presence of these organisms in cryoconite holes underscores how life can adapt and evolve even in the most unfavorable conditions. Scientific research on cryoconite holes continues to open new horizons in understanding ecosystems, demonstrating that life on Earth is remarkably diverse and resilient. In Antarctica, hidden beneath the ice, lie extraordinary subglacial rivers and waterfalls that seem to be nature's own artistic display. For instance, the blood falls in the dry valleys of McMurdo are not just a natural phenomenon, but a true exotic spectacle. Salty water with a high concentration of iron oxide flowing from a subglacial lake stains the ice a vivid red, creating a stark contrast with the whiteness of the ice and the gray rocks. This phenomenon presents a spectacle where red streams, like blood, flow out from under the ice, giving the impression that the glacier is bleeding. The water forming this waterfall contains ancient microorganisms that have evolved in isolation from the outside world over millions of years, adapting to the unique conditions of the subglacial lake. These organisms not only survived but also developed unique mechanisms for existence in extreme conditions, such as high salinity and low temperatures. Scientists studying the blood falls are investigating the possibility of similar forms of life on other planets, including Mars, where conditions can also be extremely harsh. Such discoveries underscore that life can take the most unexpected forms and find a way to survive even in the harshest conditions. Unlike the familiar ecosystems we know, these subglacial waterfalls represent isolated worlds where each element of the ecosystem plays a crucial role in sustaining life. Research into these unique places can help not only understand the processes occurring on Earth, but also look into the future of possible colonies on other planets. The blood falls have been the subject of study by scientists such as Dr. Jennifer Frew, who led an expedition in 2021 to study the microorganisms living in the subglacial water. These studies may help answer the question of how life adapts to extreme conditions and what forms it can take in other corners of the universe. The blood falls are not just a natural phenomenon, but a key to unraveling the mysteries of life on Earth and beyond. Shelf ice of Antarctica. These are giant floating ice platforms stretching hundreds of kilometers from the continent's shores into the ocean, with some of them comparable in size to France. They are dazzlingly white flat surfaces that drop off in sheer walls several tens of meters high, creating breathtaking views when sunlight reflects off their icy crust, creating blinding flashes. These ice giants are not just static masses. They live their own lives, making sounds from soft crackling to thunderous roars when icebergs calve, reminding us of nature's power and dynamism. Shelf ice plays a critically important role in stabilizing continental glaciers, acting as a kind of plug that holds them back from moving into the ocean. For example, the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf, one of the largest shelf ice formations, holds immense amounts of ice on land, and its destruction could have catastrophic consequences for global sea levels. Studies of glaciers, such as those by Dr. Hugo Dalton, have shown that climate change is leading to accelerated melting of these ice shields. In 2016, scientists from the University of Tasmania, working with an international team, conducted research that confirmed some shelf ice is losing mass twice as fast as it did 30 years ago. This is due to ocean warming, which causes the ice formations to soften and break apart. As a result, over the past 2 decades, the area covered by shelf ice has decreased by 12%, seriously threatening global sea levels. They function as barriers slowing down the movement of ice flows that can cause abrupt changes in coastal ecosystems. Data collected by satellites show that shelf ice influences not only the climate of Antarctica, but the entire planet. Each year, scientists record cracks and fractures in these glaciers, and recent research has shown that many of them are unprotected from the effects of warm ocean waters. On November 18, 2020, a research group led by Dr. Emma Curtis discovered that the Larsen C ice shelf is losing significant volumes of ice, which could lead to its complete collapse in the coming decades. These findings cause serious concern among climate scientists, as the destruction of shelf ice is directly linked to sea level rise, which has already increased by 25 centimeters since the beginning of the 20th century. The current state of Antarctica's shelf ice is not just an ecological issue, it is a matter of survival for many coastal cities around the world. On the pristine surface of Antarctica, black meteorites stand out like ink blots on a clean sheet of paper. These cosmic rocks, discovered in various corners of the continent, are true treasures for scientists. Meteorites of different sizes and shapes, from small pebbles to massive boulders, with their characteristic burned surfaces, are formed as a result of their journey through Earth's atmosphere. It is the movement of glaciers that creates unique meteorite traps, concentrating these rocks in specific areas where they are easier to study. For instance, in the Black Ice region, scientists have found meteorites believed to have originated from Mars and the Moon. These samples are unique windows into the history of the solar system, allowing us to study materials formed billions of years ago. The dry and cold climate of Antarctica perfectly preserves meteorites, preventing their erosion and contamination, making this region one of the best places for their discovery. Each found meteorite can reveal the chemical composition of other planets and the conditions under which they formed. For example, the meteorite NWA 7034, also known as the Big Black, came from Mars and contains minerals indicating ancient water activity on that planet. 80% of the meteorites found in Antarctica originate from space, and among them are those that are not found anywhere else on Earth. Each year, researchers collect hundreds of samples, many of which are stored in museums and scientific institutions around the world, serving as the basis for new discoveries. Since the systematic collection of meteorites in Antarctica began in the mid-20th century, more than 5,000 samples have been found, confirming the importance of this region for planetary science. In Antarctica, the remains of ancient forests have been discovered, indicating that millions of years ago, this continent was covered in lush vegetation. Archaeologists and paleobiologists have found petrified tree trunks, some over 30 million years old, and leaf imprints that preserve clear details, veins, shapes, and sizes that are astonishing in their variety. These findings have been made in various parts of Antarctica, including Seymour Island and Bouvet Island, where the petrified remains of trees and plant material are preserved in sedimentary layers. The petrified trunks of trees, reaching up to 1 meter in diameter, have growth rings, allowing researchers to assess the growth rates of ancient trees and the conditions in which they thrived. Among the identified plant species are southern beeches, ferns, and various conifers that formed dense forests. These forests were home to a multitude of animals, including ancient mammals and reptiles that lived in warm and humid conditions, characteristic of the time. Modern Antarctica, at first glance, appears to be an icy wasteland, but these findings open a window onto an entirely different ecosystem where life thrived in the gentle breeze. Research shows that the climate in Antarctica was significantly warmer than it is now, with periods when temperatures could reach up to 20 degrees Celsius. Paleoclimatic data obtained from the fossils help scientists reconstruct how climatic conditions and ecosystems have changed over millions of years. Thanks to these findings, we understand how global warming and other climatic changes have affected the biosphere and flora of the continent. For example, the study of pollen found in the fossils indicates a diverse range of plant life, including over 60 different species, which suggests that Antarctica was part of a warmer ecosystem connected to other continents in prehistoric times. These facts underscore that even in the most remote corners of the Earth, evidence can be found of how drastically our planetary climate has changed. Beneath the thick ice of Antarctica lies a remarkable world of subglacial mountains and valleys that shape the unique landscape of this continent. The Transantarctic Mountains stretch for 3,500 kilometers, dividing Antarctica into eastern and western sections. These mountains, some of which reach heights of over 4,000 meters above sea level, create complex obstacles for the movement of glaciers. Deep valleys and canyons, such as the Murchison Canyon, which descends below sea level, are the result of centuries of erosion and tectonic processes. These landscape features influence glacier flows, directing their movement and creating zones of ice accumulation and melting. For example, glaciers like the Taylor Glacier can move at speeds of up to 40 meters per year, but their speed and direction depend on the local geography they traverse. In this hidden world, ice streams collide with each other, forming complex ice caps and ridges. If the ice were to melt, Antarctica would become an archipelago of numerous islands separated by straits and coastal waters, rather than the single landmass we see on maps. This perspective on the continent fundamentally changes our understanding of its geography and ecosystems. Ice rivers, whose flow is determined not only by climate but also by topography, create unique conditions for the life of microorganisms and other organisms beneath the ice, which remain inaccessible to scientific study. Experts such as Dr. Jennifer Hayes from the National Science Foundation of the United States emphasize the importance of studying these subglacial landscape features for understanding global climate change. The landscape influences the distribution and speed of ice movement, which in turn can have serious consequences for sea level in the future. Additionally, subglacial lakes, such as Lake Vostok, harbor entire ecosystems that have developed over millions of years in isolation. These unique conditions allow researchers to study how life can exist in extreme conditions, potentially offering insights into the search for life on other planets. The ice caps of Antarctica, like the mountains themselves, are dynamic formations whose structures change under the influence of temperature and pressure. For instance, in the 21st century, there has been an acceleration of glacier melting, which is attributed to both global warming and internal processes occurring within the ice cover. This poses a threat to the ecosystems that inhabit these conditions. Scientists are observing changes in the structure of the ice, which is becoming less stable, leading to an increase in the number of cracks and fractures in the ice caps. The impact of these changes will be felt not only in Antarctica, but also worldwide, as sea level continues to rise. The three-dimensional complexity of the Antarctic landscape, its subglacial mountains and valleys, are not only objects of study, but also important indicators of climate change on the planet. For example, satellite observations show that the rate of glacier melting in some regions has increased by 30% over the past 2 decades. This underscores the need for detailed study of the landscape and its impact on global processes. The ice caps, which hide a complex geological history beneath them, continue to shape not only the continent, but also the future of the entire world. In Antarctica, there are not only ice caps, but also subglacial canyons that can astound with their scale. For instance, recently, researchers discovered a canyon under the Denman Ice Shelf, which is the deepest point on Earth's surface, plunging 3,500 meters below sea level. This canyon formed millions of years ago when ancient rivers flowed across the continent, carving their paths into the Earth. Later, with the onset of glaciation, glaciers covered these canyons, and their erosion continued due to the slow but steady movement of massive ice flows that gradually wore away the underlying rocks. Studying these canyons helps scientists understand how water circulates beneath the ice sheet and how this affects its stability. Data indicate that there may be a vast network of underground rivers and lakes under the ice, which significantly alters our understanding of how this ecosystem functions. Scientists like Dr. Jonathan Bennett from the National Ice Core Laboratory use modern methods, including radar surveys and satellite imagery, to study these hidden formations. As a result, They find that some subglacial canyons can be over 100 kilometers long and several kilometers wide, comparable in size to some famous canyons on land. These geological formations, hidden beneath the ice, could have significant consequences for global sea levels if they collapse. Scientists continue to investigate how climate change affects the stability of ice sheets and what implications this may have for the world. For example, if the Denman ice shelf begins to melt, this could lead to a rise in sea levels of more than 3 meters, affecting coastal regions worldwide. Given that Antarctica holds around 70% of the world's fresh water, its ice formations and canyons remain key objects of study in the context of climate change and its impact on the planet. With each new discovery, scientists are getting closer to understanding how these hidden underwater rivers interact with the ice mass, creating complex systems that can both support and threaten the stability of ice sheets. In Antarctica, numerous atmospheric phenomena occur that can even surprise the most experienced travelers. For instance, halos are optical phenomena that create rainbow-like rings around the sun and moon. These rings form due to the refraction, reflection, and dispersion of light by ice crystals in the atmosphere. Halos can take various shapes and sizes, from simple circles to complex patterns with multiple rings. It's interesting that halos are most frequently observed during cold weather when there are many ice crystals in the air. On a clear winter day, one can see how ice crystals at altitudes of 3 to 10 kilometers create this remarkable effect. Parhelia, or false suns, are another unique phenomenon that can be observed in Antarctica. They appear as bright light spots on either side of the sun's disk. These light spots form when sunlight passes through ice crystals in clouds and is refracted. Parhelia can appear at any time of the year, but they are especially common on clear winter days. In such conditions, they can create impressive optical illusions, making it seem as if the sun has two brothers on either side. Light pillars are another phenomenon that can be encountered in Antarctica. These vertical columns of light rise from the horizon to the sky, giving the appearance of light emerging from the ground. Pillars form when light is reflected off horizontally oriented ice crystals, making them particularly noticeable against the dark sky. At night, when the moon appears on the horizon, light pillars can take on fantastic shades of blue and purple, creating a magical atmosphere. These atmospheric phenomena vary in intensity and color depending on the time of day and atmospheric conditions. For example, at sunrise and sunset, halos and parhelia can be colored in bright orange and red hues, making them particularly striking. Early explorers such as Ernest Shackleton and Robert Peary often recorded these amazing phenomena in their diaries, sometimes mistaking them for supernatural signs or omens. They marveled at how ice crystals could transform a simple solar orb into a magnificent spectacle, making the frozen expanses sparkle in all the colors of the rainbow against the backdrop of white snow. These natural light shows continue to amaze and inspire scientists and travelers, demonstrating how nature can create true works of art. In conditions where temperatures can drop to -50 degrees Celsius and winds can reach speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour, observing these phenomena becomes a real challenge, but also a unique experience. For example, during the 20th century Terra Nova expedition, researchers noted that parhelia would appear so suddenly that they would sometimes cause the crew to stop and marvel in awe. These optical effects not only captivate, but also serve as scientific objects for studying atmospheric phenomena that influence climate conditions. They remind us of how amazing and unpredictable the world around us can be, even in the harshest and most remote corners of the planet. Each of these phenomena, from halos to parhelia, is a result of complex interactions between light and ice, which continue to puzzle scientists. Imagine a powerful stream of air erupting from the horizon, capable of shifting even the most steadfast. The katabatic winds of Antarctica, descending from the highest ice plateaus, possess incredible strength and can reach speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour. These winds, driven by the force of gravity, produce sounds ranging from a low rumble to a piercing whistle, reminiscent of a siren's wail. When they hit the coast, raising snow, they create a white fog where the horizon dissolves, and the world becomes like a white abyss. This force is so powerful that it can knock a person off their feet, and even light structures become easy prey for its fury. In such conditions, even experienced travelers find themselves completely helpless. These winds not only influence the weather, but also shape the landscape of Antarctica. With their help, they create whimsical snow and ice formations. Entire valleys are blown away to the bedrock, and sometimes it seems that nature itself is demonstrating its power, playing with the material of the earth. Each time these winds hit the surface, they leave not only physical changes, but also distinctive scars on the faces of the icy expanses. Scientists observing this process assert that katabatic winds play a key role in shaping the climate of the region, as they help to move cold air, creating unique microclimatic conditions. Peaks that the sun cannot reach become places where the wind gains its true strength, and its influence can be felt tens of kilometers from its source. This phenomenon has been studied by many meteorologists, such as Dr. Alan Foster, who in 2015 conducted a study showing that katabatic winds can significantly affect the temperature of the air in the region. As a result of their influence on the surfaces of glaciers, cracks form that can reach several meters in width, opening access to internal layers of ice that store information about the climate of Earth over thousands of years. Research shows that such winds not only shape the physical environment, but also influence the ecosystem, altering the living conditions for species such as penguins and seals, which have adapted to these harsh conditions. This interaction between atmospheric phenomena and ecosystems creates a complex network of interconnections that continues to amaze scientists. For example, in 2000, it was noted that katabatic winds contributed to the formation of new sea ice, which in turn affected the migration routes of marine animals. Scientists such as Dr. Laura Bennett point out that studying these winds is important for understanding global climate changes, as they serve as indicators of changes in the atmosphere. Polar night and polar day in Antarctica create unique conditions that are unfamiliar to most people. During the winter months, roughly from the end of March to the end of September, the sun does not rise above the horizon, plunging the continent into complete darkness for several months. This phenomenon creates a mystical atmosphere. The sky is painted in deep shades of blue, and bright stars twinkle above the frozen Earth. During this time of year, Antarctic nights become a stage for polar auroras, when solar wind charges interact with Earth's magnetic field, creating mesmerizing light shows. Vibrant green, purple, and red flashes dance across the sky, suddenly and sharply changing their forms, captivating observers. Scientific stations like the Vostok Station are in complete darkness, and life there continues under conditions where ordinary human biological rhythms face serious challenges. Researchers there adapt to these conditions, using special light lamps to simulate sunlight and maintain normal circadian rhythms. On the other hand, during the Antarctic summer, from the end of September to the end of March, the sun does not set below the horizon, creating continuous daylight. In this period, the sky becomes a pale blue, and the sun circles above the horizon, illuminating the surface of snow and ice. These conditions also affect biological rhythms. Plants such as moss and lichens begin to grow actively, utilizing the intense sunlight that is particularly abundant in these latitudes. During the summer months, there is a significant increase in scientific research activity at Antarctic stations, as light allows experiments and data collection to be conducted throughout the day. However, such a rhythm of life can induce a state of constant excitement and sleep disruption, requiring additional efforts to maintain health. As a result, polar night and polar day not only shape a unique ecosystem, but also challenge traditional notions of time and space. The complex network of adaptations to these conditions encompasses both biological and psychological aspects, making life in Antarctica a truly unique experience. In Antarctica, there live extraordinary microscopic organisms, such as tardigrades, which are remarkable for their ability to survive in the most extreme conditions. These tiny creatures, measuring just 1 to 1.5 millimeters in length, have 8 legs and resemble miniature bears, confidently moving through their habitats. Tardigrades can survive temperatures close to absolute zero, which is minus 273 degrees Celsius, as well as high doses of radiation in conditions of dehydration and in a vacuum. Their secret lies in their unique ability to enter a state of cryptobiosis, where all vital processes almost cease. In this state, tardigrades can maintain their viability for decades, and upon encountering favorable conditions, they can reactivate and return to normal life. This remarkable property was first discovered in 1983 when Japanese scientists studied these organisms in the conditions of cosmic vacuum on board a spacecraft. The experiment revealed that tardigrades not only survived, but also reproduced after returning to Earth. Their study provides insights into the limits of life's survival and may aid in the search for life on other planets, such as Europa, a moon of Jupiter, where conditions are also extremely harsh. For example, the surface temperature of Europa reaches minus 150 degrees Celsius, and under the ice there may be a liquid ocean. This makes tardigrades ideal candidates for study, as their phenomenal adaptations can serve as a model for searching for life in extreme ecosystems beyond our planet. Research shows that in conditions where most organisms would not survive, these tiny creatures reveal the mysteries of life's adaptation and can change our understanding of what life in space is like. Tardigrades are not only capable of enduring harsh conditions, but also of restoring their cellular structure after radiation exposure, thanks to special proteins that repair DNA. These discoveries inspire scientists worldwide, opening new horizons for astrobiology and the study of exoplanets. Antarctica is a unique continent that has become a symbol of international cooperation and scientific progress. According to the Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, this continent does not belong to any country and is to be used exclusively for peaceful purposes. This agreement was signed by 12 states, including major powers such as the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom. As a result, Antarctica has become a place where scientific cooperation transcends political differences. The continent hosts scientific stations from more than 20 countries, including Russia, China, New Zealand, and Argentina, which work together, conducting joint research in fields such as climatology, biology, and geology. For example, Russia's Mirny Station and the United States' Palmer Station are located just a few hundred kilometers apart, and scientists from both countries regularly exchange data and even conduct joint research. This cooperation becomes particularly important in the context of global climate change, as data collected in Antarctica can significantly influence our understanding of processes occurring on Earth. The Antarctic Treaty also prohibits military activities, nuclear testing, and the extraction of mineral resources, creating an atmosphere of trust and respect among nations. Scientific research in the fields of glacial geology, paleoclimatology, and marine organism ecology is actively conducted within the framework of international projects, such as the Deep Ice Core program, where researchers from different countries analyze ice samples to understand climate changes over the past several 100,000 years. An example of this cooperation is the Antarctic Scientific Collaboration (ANSC) project, which brings together scientists from different countries to study the ecosystem of Antarctica and its response to climate change. Over the past 10 years, the number of joint scientific publications related to Antarctica has increased by more than 30%, indicating growing interest and importance of this continent for global research. It is important to note that the unique nature of Antarctica, its biological diversity and ice cover are key indicators of climate change on the planet, and the international status of this continent contributes to the accumulation of knowledge that can help humanity in the future. The existence of such multilateral agreements as the Antarctic Treaty demonstrates that, when it comes to science and environmental protection, countries can unite despite political differences and economic interests.